Good evening, everybody. My name is Jurgen Allerijn, and my co-presenter is Eddie. I will start sharing the slides. So I work as a cloud architect for Luminous in the Netherlands. I mainly focus on Azure and Kubernetes and also Clicera. Maybe you want also to introduce yourself, Eddie?
Hi, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. My name is Eddie Resica. I as well work for Luminous as a cloud security engineer. And looking forward to walk you through this workshop on installing Calico on Azure. That's it.
So we have a short agenda and a bit of introduction of Luminous, the company we work for, some practical information. Then we start with the fun part, the installation, and if we have time left during the first part, there are also 2 optional exercises, and there's of course room for questions. Luminous is a Dutch company. We try to help organizations in developing software and based on or mostly focused on data and search that are our strong points. We have also some guys who do ops. We are 2 of them, but there are some more. But we mostly have developers, and we have all kinds of areas. But we're moving to a more DevOps way of working company. Our values are be ambitious. Craftsmanship is one of our main values, and it's very important that we do the really stuff that we are proud of. And take ownership and commitment of the things that you do, of your work. And what we think is also very important is to collaborate with each other, and also share it with our customers. So the goal of this workshop is to implement Calico in combination with Azure Kubernetes Service or AKS. We will install it during the workshop as a CNI. If you install Azure Kubernetes Service default, you get the Azure CNI with it, but we're going to install Calico as the CNI, which is possible because of the extension within Azure, which makes it possible to bring your own CNI. And we will look at the 3 perspectives: network, security, and observability. So the practical side, you need, of course, a computer, but with internet access, but otherwise you would also not be able to follow this session. So I guess you have that. You need an Azure subscription, and because of the VMs that we use as nodes, you need a paid subscription or a credit card subscription. The free subscription is not enough for the exercises. And you can find the exercises and all the information on this link. I think maybe we can share it also in the chat. So I would suggest that everybody goes to the GitHub page.
I've shared it, Jurgen.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. What we basically did there are all the exercises. what we will be doing is run the complete workshop using the Azure Cloud Shell, so that we are independent of local settings on your laptop, and that we can just focus on the workshop, because Azure takes care of everything. So the first part of the GitHub slide or GitHub repository is information how you should start the Cloud Shell. You should use bash, because we will be using bash commands, and it will also ask for cloud storage, and that's also needed to put the information that you will get from the repo and start the commands. We split the workshop in two ways. You can do either method one, and method one is a fully automated script that will do all the steps for you, and you can follow them on screen. There will be logging information of all the steps that are done, or you can do method two, and then you do all the steps manually. We will be doing it manually, so that we can explain some information during the steps. And yeah, I think it's a good idea now to start. If there are questions, please ask them in the Q&A session or Q&A part, and then we can help you there. Are there already questions now? Is everybody able to connect to the GitHub repo?
I don't see any questions, so I think we're all connected.
Okay.
Looking good. Yeah.
Yeah. So we split up the workshop in three parts. The first part is installing Azure Kubernetes service. Before you can install Azure Kubernetes service, you need to create a resource group. Yeah, the commands are on the GitHub README file. Then we are creating an AKS cluster, and we with no Kubernetes CNI pre-installed. That allows us to install Calico OS CNI later. The installation will take about 6 till 9 minutes, approximately. Depends a bit on which part of the world you are and how fast Azure is responding. But when we tested this exercise, it took us between 6 and 9 minutes. And as last step, we will do the command so that you have the kubectl for the cluster available, and that you can check some stuff on the cluster. So I'm going to start now the commands myself, so that I can see how far we are. So I shall share my screen for that.
I think you need to stop sharing first.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be able to share the screen.
Yep. So. Yeah. So I already logged on to Azure CLI. I configured my location. I cloned the Git repo, and I created a resource group. You can choose your own region, like it said in the exercises, so that you have the nearest Azure location and don't have any lag or something. So after that, the creation of the workshop or resource group, we move to the creating of the AKS cluster. And you see here network plugin none. And we already specified the pod size of the network range. and we ask for the generation of the SSH keys, which will be needed to use kubectl later on. So this is the part that takes the most of the time. All the commands will go faster, but yeah, installing AKS takes some time. We're installing a cluster with 3 nodes. So you will, when it's finished, you have 3 nodes available. If you choose the automatic script, which does it all, it will display some logging information and pause after every step, so that you can see also when the step is finished. Then back to the presentation. Yeah, already some information. When you have the cluster up and running, which will take some time, you can use some commands, which are also on the GitHub repo. There's a list with commands where you can check how the Kubernetes environment is looking. You can check if the nodes are available. You can see the namespaces that you have already there, and you can see the pods that are deployed. For me, the build is still running, so we can't show you anything at the moment. But when it will be done, I will share my screen again, and then we can check if it's the same as on the slide. But what you will notice is that if you do the kubectl cat nodes, that the status is not ready, and that means that's because of the lack of the CNI. The CNI is responsible for the communication also between the nodes. So until the CNI is installed, the status will always be not ready. You see some other things about the cluster. So all the nodes are agents. The control plane is managed by Microsoft. That is the because it's a platform as a service service within Microsoft. So you don't see the master nodes. You only see the agent nodes. You see which version of OS is used. In our case, we chose Ubuntu 18.04. You can also use Windows nodes, but in this case, we chose the Linux nodes. You see the kernel version and also the containerd version. Any questions? Are people already experiencing problems, or is everything going or looking okay?
With me, is still running, and I don't see any questions yet. No.
Yeah. Even if you didn't install the CNI, you see that the nodes already have an internal IP address. You see also the namespaces that will be created by default, and also some pods that will be created during the installation of Kubernetes. So these are all default. And in a later step, we will also be adding the CNI in the application. So you will get some more namespaces and pods there also. Not sure how far we are now. It's difficult to see if something is already there.
With me, the most resources are created, and actually currently configuring them like the Calico AKS workshop nodes. Yeah, they're still creating. should be done with 1 or 2 minutes. Let me see if there are any questions. No.
Yeah, for me, it's also still running. The Kubernetes service is created at my site. It's still configuring it. You also see the version of Kubernetes. It's 1.23.12. That's the current version, which is supported within AKS. You can select higher versions, but this is the current version, and they have N+2 strategy within Azure, so you can also use 124 and some other versions. For me, it's now ready. Let me show.
Lucky you.
So you see all kinds of information that he has created during the installation. And so if I do now a kubectl get nodes, I specify that I want it wide so that I get more info. Then I can error.
Get nodes dash A.
No, it's not necessary. Okay. It's very interesting.
You need to
I already no, I forgot the step, of course.
Yeah, the last step.
After the cluster is created, you have to get the credentials. That's why it's not working.
Which is step 3, I think.
Yeah. So if I begin, so so you see that I have 3 nodes running, just like in the screen of in the slide. All 3 nodes are not ready. They have their own IP, but they have no external IP currently. They are all Ubuntu, and the kernel and the container version is there. So if I do a cluster, okay. You see that the control planning is running. We use core DNS, and the metric server is there. When we install the plugins, some of the information here will change. And if we look at namespaces, they are also there. So the defaults, the kube node leaves the public and the system. And also if we do the get pods, You see all the pods are there, some are still pending, so the autoscaler is not working. It's also related to the network, the CNI not being available. Everything which is pending is because they are daemon sets and they are not able to be installed because the CNI is not there yet. All the other stuff is running, so the cluster looks okay from my side. So I hope that you also are reached this state currently. Eddie, are you already there?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And I think I also switch now to you for
Thank you.
for stop share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we seen, then what Jürgen did is install the first, I think, 4 steps. Yeah, so first 3 steps, of course, for the resource on Azure, and I will take from now on and basically do the following steps, which are installing the operator and is configuring the operator. For those who don't know, the Tegera operators manages the life cycle of Calico and Calico Enterprise, of course, and its goal is to make installation, upgrades, ongoing life cycles management, and those kind of things simple and reliable. So if I just stop sharing this and share my screen, I will show you how easy it is. You should all see my screen now. So currently, as I said, I also have the same as what you said before with Jürgen's screen. And now we're gonna actually execute step 4 within the workshop repository, which is creating the Tegera operator. We haven't installed it yet, at least not installed did the installation of Calico. We just installed the operator, which, of course, after that will take care of the installation of the configuration itself for the Calico installation. A lot of things, so I will just clean it for a moment and I will show you. You should see this as well if you're following step by step, which installed the API server and installed the operator with settings. If you really want to know what's in it, you can just see in there, which has some settings on installation. We won't go in too much in that because that's out of scope, but this is what we actually do. Definitely the IP pool, which we set, and encapsulation, of course, of the Calico network. So you should see this as well. And the following step is basically within our let's see. So what we did now is basically, let me see. What we did is we installed the operator, and now we're ready actually to run a application. On the following step, we'll do a deploy an application, which is yet another online bank. For those who know or did something with Calico, this is a basic application that comes back every time. Basically, you do some kind of a course or whatever. We're going to verify the deployment, and we're actually going to deploy a load balancer, which will be in front of the application, and we will, of course, balance the traffic that comes in into Azure and deploy and send it forward to the front end of the application. The application itself looks like follows. There is a setup of one pod with a front end. There's a business logic with actually 2 pods, the API, you may call it, and the backend, of course, the data source is with one pod deployed. This all is done if you're following along with the step 6 to deploy. I will start sharing my screen again so you can see and follow along. So now I'll apply the YoBank, create the deployment, starts everything. And now we should basically verify our deployments by just grabbing. As you can see, there are 3 deployments done. They're not ready yet. They're starting. We can actually go and put on, for those who know, to follow them. Well, in the meantime, they're already started, so we don't need to follow this one. But if they haven't started, then you should see the change in status when they're started with this command -w. So currently we deployed our application, but we can't access it because we actually need at least as the current setup, we need a load balancer up front in front, so it will load balance and send the traffic to the correct pod. In this case, we will do it like this. So the server is now created. This might take for you 30 to 40 seconds, depending on where you are and how you're deploying it. But when it's deployed, you should see an external IP. As long as you don't see the external IP, you won't be able to actually open it and see it how the application is deployed. Once you get this IP, you can basically just open a new window and just visit it. And now we're actually looking at our deployment application we just deployed. That's as easy as it is. We already did so. So we already deployed the application. We deployed the load balancer. The load balancer is getting requests from outside and sending it back basically to, in this case, just let me open, into the customer's front end, which of course does a request to the backend and responds it, and it goes back to the, in this case, the viewer. We did this with Calico, bring your own CNI instead of the Azure CNI, just with a couple of commands. And those commands are again shown in this exercise, in the first exercise, where we just showed them. Let me stop sharing. Are there any questions? Meanwhile,
no. Yeah, there was one question, but that's already answered. If there was a Helm template, and yeah, there's a Helm template for installing Calico.
Yes.
Helm chart, of course. Sorry.
That was the basically the first part of the main part of the workshop of installing Calico with Bring Your Own CNI within Azure. If it looked easy, you're right, because it is. Are there any questions at the moment, or do we have 1 minute for just an exercise that we can do?
I think we have only 1 minute left. But if you want to do the exercises later on your own speed, the repo will be stay available publicly in the coming days, at least.
Yes, definitely. Please, if you have any questions or you come up with any problems, please feel free to just contact us and or walk through the exercise that we defined, which are quite easy, but shows you a bit more in depth about security compliance. If you do the second part of the exercise, which is called the global network policies, and you can then actually see Calico security and compliance real time at work. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Yeah, thank you.